Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the John Campea podcast here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea. Thanks so much for joining me on this end of the week, Friday installment of the John Campea podcast. Got a whole bunch of things for us to discuss today. Where did I get the topics? From you guys. You guys email into me the questions and topics that you'd like us to discuss on the show. How do you get a question or a topic to me on the John Campea podcast? It's simple. Just email me anytime at thejohncampeapodcast@gmail.com. That's thejohncampeapodcast@gmail.com. I've picked out 6 questions. If you want a sneak peek at the preview, look into the description of this video and you'll see the 6 questions that we have pulled out today. All right. So with any further ado, let's dive into it today with question number 1. And question number 1 today comes to us from one of my Patreon supporters. I love my Patreon supporters. Thank you guys. And that comes from Jack. And Jack writes, my question is, do you think that Warner Brothers would have arrived at a DC shared universe even if the Marvel Cinematic Universe didn't exist beforehand? And what if the first Avenger movie was a flop? Do you think DC would have still eventually made their own shared universe? Well, thanks a lot for the question, Jack. Let's start with the second part of your question. What if Avengers had been a flop? Now, normally, I actually love entertaining theoretical scenarios and stuff like that because it can lead down some pretty interesting conversation pieces. But I'll say this. Marvel was never in any danger of Avengers being a flop. I mean, it could have been a flop critically, but financially, it was in no danger at all of being a flop. Why? Because they had already had precedent. They already put out several MCU films, and they all financially did well. So they knew going into Avengers that the worst case scenario was that they made money, but not as much money as they could have. That's what Marvel and, the folks at Disney knew their scenario was. If we make an Avengers movie, there is no doubt, there is no threat, there is no worry of us losing money. The film will not flop. It will make money. The only question for the folks at Marvel and Disney at the time was, how much money will Avengers make us? Now, I'm sure they didn't anticipate, hitting $2 billion or anything like that. I'm sure it was a much bigger hit than they thought it was going to be. But I'm sure in their minds, it wasn't a question of if it will make money. It was only, will it make as much money as it can? They knew because they had all that precedent and all that history with the other films they had already made that the film would certainly not be a financial flop. So that was never really a worry or a concern. But let's go to the first part of your question now. If Marvel had not had that post-credit scene in the first Iron Man movie with Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury showing up and saying, Mr. Stark, we're starting something called the Avengers Initiative. If they had never done that scene and they had never embraced their shared cinematic universe, would DC still have eventually got to their shared cinematic universe? Unequivocally, without doubt, yes. Warner Brothers would have got there anyway. And there's a couple of reasons we know this. Number 1, back when Christopher Nolan was doing his Dark Knight trilogy, a lot of people were already talking about, oh, wouldn't it be cool now to see Batman team up with Green Arrow? Wouldn't it be cool to see Batman obviously fight Superman? Wouldn't it be cool to see, a lot of people just with the success of the Dark Knight trilogy were already very excited and chatting and wanting to see Batman hook up with another superhero to fight crime, whether it be in Gotham or worldwide or whatever, and eventually the dream would be a Justice League. The other reason we know for certain that Warner Brothers would have eventually ended up at their own DC Cinematic Universe anyway is, keep in mind this. Avengers came out in 2012. As early as 2007, this little director by the name of George Miller, you may have heard of him from Mad Max fame, George Miller was brought on by Warner Brothers to direct a Justice League movie. And that's what he was going to do. And they were putting together a Justice League movie. Many of you have heard about this. They had it cast Armie Hammer. Armie Hammer, who we all know now. Before any of us knew who Armie Hammer was, George Miller cast Armie Hammer as Batman. Armie Hammer was going to be Batman in the new Justice League movie, and they were putting that together, and they were, I believe, like literally just like a week away from starting filming or something like that, as the, as the urban legend goes, and then it got canceled pretty much last minute. All the reasons behind the canceling is a topic for another video, but it did eventually get canceled. But the point is that 5 years before Avengers eventually came out, DC had shown that they already had in mind a cinematic universe. And they were going to kick things off with Justice League and then get their individual films out from there, which is the opposite way that Marvel did it, but I think that would have been the right way for them to do it because it was different, and I still think it would have launched out pretty well. So yes, absolutely, I do think Warner Brothers would have showed up at their own cinematic universe even if the MCU had not formed. And there's not really a lot of point talking about what if Avengers had flopped, because there was never in any danger at all of flopping, because they already had history and precedent of their films already that showed everything they make made money. It was only going to be a question of how much money would they make. All right, thanks a lot for the question, Jack. We move on now to the next question. And the next question is about a movie I'm very excited about that's coming out here pretty soon, the new Stephen King horror film, It. This one comes to us from Phil Lee. And Phil Lee writes, with It coming out soon, do you think the marketing campaign has been too good? The Tim Curry version had terrified and scared people like Amy Rose for life. Scarred people, I should say, like Amy Rose for life. People won't even go to the circus because of their fear of clowns. These movie trailers look even scarier than the original version. Will this keep the faint of heart away? Thanks a lot for the question, Phil Lee. And yeah, the marketing for It has been fantastic. I have loved it. It's looked great. And I admit, I was one of those people when they first announced they were doing an It movie. I kind of thought, it's going to be cheap. It's going to be whatever. And then the trailer started coming out, won me over. I am completely won over now. And there has been one screening of the film, and I was not there. I'm going to see the movie on Tuesday, I believe. But anyway, there was one screening of the film, and everybody that I know that was at that screening, and not a lot of people were there, but everybody that I know that was at that screening are all raving about it. They loved it. Okay, so the marketing's been great. The marketing looks good. But Phil Lee raises an interesting question. Does it look too good? Because as I'm sitting in the theater at different movies and the It trailer comes up, I'm hearing a lot of people around me going, oh, hell no. Like, I'm hearing a lot of people watching this trailer like, going, nope, hell no, no chance. Like, talking out loud because it's a pretty scary trailer. But that's exactly what they want it to be. Here's the thing about the movies. I always say this, besides the fact that movies are all subjective. The thing about the movies is the movie-going experience is about having an experience. That's what it's all about. Movies need to deliver an experience. Whether that experience is joy, whether that experience is reflection, like a lot of documentaries will give us, whether that experience is anger, whether that experience is laughter, whether that experience is tension, whether that experience is excitement, or in the case of horror films, whether that movie experience is about fear. We crave experience. We want to experience one of those things, hopefully multiples of those things, when we go to the movie theaters. And horror films, more than any other genre, right on the surface say, you come to our movie, you're going to get this experience, and it's fear. That's the experience that horror films hopefully deliver when they put their movies together. So it's like roller coaster rides, man. People who go to horror movies are looking to be scared. They want to be scared. It's fun to be scared when you're scared in a safe environment. People love to be scared. And that's why lunatics, ride the however many feet high. That's why people skydive. That's why people ride the roller coasters. People love that rush. People love that thing of being scared. And movies can do it better than anybody else. So yeah, on the one hand, the It trailers have been amazing. They are telling you, you're going to get scared. But Phil Lee's asking the question, could the trailers be doing such a good job it may keep some people away from the theater? Here's the thing. I think anybody that is going to be kept away from the theater because it's a really scary movie, they weren't going to go to see It anyway. Even if the It trailers weren't very good at showing you how scary the movie was going to be, people who avoid horror movies were going to avoid It anyway. People who are already scared of clowns, like my friend Amy Rose, she is not going to go see it unless unless she really loves The Fear, then maybe she'll go see it. But I got a feeling Amy Rose will not be going to see it. And maybe she will. I don't know. I haven't talked to her about it. I've got a friend of mine, Ryan, who I just hung out with last night. Not going to go see it. And the clowns, no way. There are people I know who just cannot take horror films. My friend Josh McCouga cannot handle horror films. There's no way he's going to the movie theater to watch it. Maybe he'll watch it at home sometime when he can turn the lights on and stop the movie at any time. So the point is that if the scariness of the trailers, if we're worried about those keeping certain people away, I have a feeling those people were already going to be kept away no matter what, because they weren't going to go see a horror movie with a clown as the main antagonist. So I think they're pretty safe on that level. Great question, though. Thanks a lot for sending it in. All right, now we move on to the next question. And the next question also comes to us from one of my Patreon supporters. It comes to us from Jeff Bingham, who writes, what are your thoughts on the status of actress Alexandra Daddario's career? We felt optimistic after she showed promise in True Detective and San Andreas, but between Baywatch criminally shortchanging her and the Layover set to disappear into obscurity, things aren't looking too hopeful for one of Hollywood's most beautiful and underrated actresses. Yeah, thanks a lot for the question, man. And, you know, a lot of people have had their eye on Alexandra Daddario ever since, Percy Jackson, that's the name of it, the young adult novel series. Percy Jackson and the Thunder Lightning Gods, whatever it's called. Anyway, so she was a little girl in that. Then all of a sudden she shows up on True Detective. She's beautiful and talented and great. And then I thought she was great in San Andreas. Who knew San Andreas was going to be fun? And I think a lot of us thought San Andreas was just going to be stupid. And sure, it was stupid, but it was stupid fun. And they did a lot of good things in that movie. And Alexandra Daddario is one of the reasons why that movie worked. Then she does Baywatch. Baywatch was a train wreck. Clearly not her fault that it was a train wreck. Then this movie, The Layover. But The Layover was always kind of straight-to-home video kind of movie anyway. And she doesn't have anything major coming out. She has, I think, 2 or 3 movies on her docket right now that are coming out. At least 2 of them I know are not going to be wide-release films. They're probably going to be more VOD kind of movies. And the one I think is called like Numis that she's doing with Henry Cavill and Stanley Tucci. That looks like it has promise, but I really don't know anything about the movie at all. So it could be, I mean, Henry Cavill has done straight to VOD movies, so it might be another straight to VOD movie. I know no major distributor has picked it up yet. So on one hand, think of it this way. Alexandra Daddario has already had more success in Hollywood than 99.9% of the actresses who come to Hollywood and try to get a career going will ever have. I know it's weird to think of it in those terms, but really, for every one Alexandra Daddario, there's 1,000 other young actresses, actors as well, who come to Hollywood in the hopes and dreams of getting a career going. Alexandra Daddario has had already, at this point, has had a much more successful career than the vast majority of them will ever have in their lives. So she's already had a quote-unquote successful career. But she's not quite where we thought she would be right now, or maybe where her talent deserves her to be. You know, it's funny because I was in a conversation about Alexandra Daddario about maybe a week and a half ago, and people were saying, like, the one guy in the conversation was just, and he meant this as a compliment, but he said, she's just too attractive not to have in movies. I mean, she's like an angel. She's like physical perfection. Like, how do you not have this girl in movies? And it comes in, when it comes down to the physical appearance, I'm going to talk about 2 separate things here. I'm going to talk about her talent. I'm going to talk about her physical appearance. All right. When it comes to the physical appearance, is Alexandra Daddario drop dead, punch you in the face beautiful? Obviously she is. But you'd be making a mistake to think on that basis alone, she should be in more movies. Here's the thing about people who don't live in Los Angeles, okay? And I'm sure there are other cities where this is true as well around the world, but it's particularly true in Los Angeles, is that you can go out on the sidewalk, throw a quarter, and that quarter will hit 5 drop-dead gorgeous girls before the quarter hits the ground. Why? Because not only do a lot of just naturally beautiful women live in Los Angeles, I found my wife here, it's also that every town around the USA's most attractive and talented girls get on the plane and fly to LA to try to break into show business. So you've got all of LA's native beautiful women. Then you got like all the most beautiful women from around the country all fly in to try to live in Los Angeles, try to get a career going. It's crazy. It sounds ludicrous to say But finding a ridiculously punch-you-in-the-face beautiful actress is not a hard thing to do in Hollywood. That part's not hard. I remember in the early days of like AMC, not even just in the early days, even in the latter days as well, I would sometimes get criticism from people who go, "Oh, Campea, you just hired Ashley Mova because she's hot," or "You just hired Sinead DeFries because she's hot," and things like that, right? And the things these idiots wouldn't understand is like, dudes, you did not see the 700 to 1,000 girls who applied for this job. The 30 that I narrowed it down to invite in for auditions. Ashley Mova is a beautiful girl. Sinead DeFries is a beautiful girl. There were girls who were a lot more beautiful than them. And all of them were just stunning. All of them that came in were stunningly, gorgeously beautiful. This is just the LA scene. I hired Ashley Mova and Sinead DeFries because they were talented and because they were good and they had great personalities that I felt would come across great on screen. That's why I chose them. But everybody who came into audition for the different roles I would put up were like 10 out of 10s. It's crazy. So being crazy, punch you in the face, beautiful in Hollywood, that's good. I mean, it's a good thing, sure, but it ain't going to get you a career. Now let's talk about Alexandra Daddario's talent. The girl can act. She was in one of the most critically acclaimed shows of the past 10 years in True Detective with some powerhouse actors in Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson. And she was totally holding her own in those scenes. I'm not even just talking about the sex scenes, whatever. She as an actress was completely going toe-to-toe, holding her own. That's her level talent with those iconic actors in that show. She brought something to that flimsy throwaway kind of joke of a movie, San Andreas. She was great in it. She was in that garbage movie, Baywatch, and she made her scenes watchable because she's got that much talent. The trouble is, this is also a town that's filled with people with talent, and it's difficult. So, I mean, yes, did I expect Alexandra Daddario to be a little bit further along in her career, like even be one more notch above where she is right now? By this point, yes, I did. But it's not completely surprising that she's not, because this is an incredibly and viciously competitive industry with an incredibly and viciously competitive group of people in it. The best looking guys and the best looking girls in the world all come here. The most talented guys and the most talented girls all in the world come here to try to chase their dreams, to make something happen. And every day, 1,000 more good looking, talented actors and actresses show up in Hollywood, and it's incredibly viciously competitive. And I think Alexandra Daddario should be a major star. She's already a star. I think she should be a major star, but it is a competitive industry, and we'll have to see, how she bounces back from Baywatch. Can she get past these VOD kind of titles again? Can we get her in another major film where she can showcase her talent? We're just going to have to wait and see. All right, thanks a lot for the question, Jeff. We move on now to the next question, also coming to us from one of my Patreon supporters. This one comes to us from Kadeem T, who writes, with only 2 big superhero movies left in 2017, I'd say 2017 has been a step above the divisiveness and the ups and downs of 2016 superhero movies-wise. All the 2017 superhero movies so far have been pretty positively received, and each have had their own tone and feel. I feel with Justice League and Thor Ragnarok sure to follow. My question is this. Keeping in mind you haven't seen the last 2 films, that's Justice League and Thor Ragnarok, what would your early prediction be for the weakest superhero film of 2017? Yeah, thanks a lot for the question, Kadeem T. And so far, to the best of my knowledge, I think we've had 3 major superhero movies. Maybe I'm missing one. We've had Guardians of the Galaxy 2, we've had Logan, we've had Wonder Woman. Great year for comic book movies so far. And and Spider-Man Homecoming. Of course, we've had 4 major ones. Spider-Man Homecoming. All the major comic book movie players have been represented already. You got Sony with Spider-Man Homecoming and Marvel with Spider-Man Homecoming. You got Fox with Logan. You've got Warner Brothers, DC with Wonder Woman. And you got straight up Marvel with Guardians of the Galaxy 2. And now we've got Justice League coming, and we got Thor Ragnarok coming, and those both look great. It's been a fantastic year. If you're a comic book movie fan, man, it has been a great year. Interesting question, though. Which one do I think is going to be the weakest of the year? This is great because I think this is going to be a year where we're going to get 6 major comic book films, and the weakest of them is still going to be a pretty good movie. That's a win for comic book movie fans. That is a major win. We have won this year. It's fantastic. Now, I believe both Thor Ragnarok and Justice League are going to be really good. I think the track record that Marvel has with their MCU, I think bringing in a director like Taika Waititi, the trailers have been fantastic. Thor Ragnarok is going to be great. I think what we've seen from Justice League so far has been great. Yes, the trailer was fantastic. And, you know, not barring the tragedy that happened to the Snyder family, we are going to be left with a Justice League movie that I believe combines and marries the incredible visual aesthetics and action sensibilities of a Zack Snyder with the substance and the narrative talents of a Joss Whedon, or a dialogue talents of a Joss Whedon. And we get to put those two things together, and we're going to get a movie that is an amalgamation of both of these filmmakers with their incredible strengths. I think Justice League, I'm predicting right now, I'm calling, I think Justice League is going to be a winner. I think it's going to be a big winner. So anyway, I think neither Thor Ragnarok nor Justice League are going to be the weakest film of the year. I think the weakest film of the year is one of the ones that we've already seen already. And I believe the weakest comic book movie of 2017, which is one we've all already seen and one I like, but it's Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I think Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is going to end up being the weakest comic book movie of the year. And I like Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I think it's a good movie. I didn't think it was nearly as good as the first one. I thought they got caught up in certain ideas and certain tropes with the second one that they shouldn't have got caught up in. But I still found the movie quite entertaining. I walked out of watching Guardians of the Galaxy 2 with a smile on my face. I enjoyed it. But I do believe it's weaker than Wonder Woman. I do believe it's weaker than Spider-Man Homecoming. And I do believe it's weaker, obviously, than Logan. The Logan is the best comic book movie of the year. Logan is the best movie of the year so far. Not just comic book movie, best movie of the year. By far. Like, by far. Nothing is a remote possibility that's come close to it. There's one or two movies that come relatively close to it, I think. But as far as comic book movies go, nothing Warner Brothers or DC, or Warner Brothers or Marvel has put out this year comes close to Logan. Nothing comes close to Logan so far. So we'll have to see if it still ends up being that way after we see Thor Ragnarok and obviously Justice League. But I would say that my pick right now for weakest of the year, and I still think it's good, is Guardians of the Galaxy 2. All right, thanks a lot for the question, Kadeem. I'm curious, what do you guys think has been the weakest comic book film of the year so far? Or do you think Justice League or Thor Ragnarok might be even worse than it? Jump into the comments section below and leave me your thoughts. All right, we move on now to the next question. And the next question comes to us from Paul Chambers. And Paul Chambers writes, my question is, after watching the Justice League trailer again today, I heard Alfred say the line, "One misses the days when one's biggest concern was exploding wind-up penguins." I love that line in the trailer. This is obviously a nod to Batman Returns, but does Alfred saying this mean that the events of Batman Returns happened in the DCEU continuity? Thanks a lot for the question, Paul. The Justice League trailer is just packed full of awesome. I love that trailer. And I heard some people poo-pooing on this one shot. I thought it was the money shot. That shot where Aquaman is falling in the sky, riding that parademon like a surfboard. He crashes down through the building. And he comes shooting out the front of the building. And it does his big hair flip. It's like, come on, dude. That's as badass as they come. I thought that was amazing. Anyway, there's that great moment where Alfred and Bruce are talking. And he said, one misses the days when one's biggest concern was exploding wind-up penguins. That's great. And a nod to material that has come before it. But here's what comic book movie fans do. And look, honestly, let's be real. Let's be real with each other here, okay? Comic book movie fans, I'm one of them. And I do this too. You do this. All of us do this. We are the worst than any other genre movie fan trying to connect lines between movies when all the filmmakers were intending to do was to give you a wink and to give you a tip of the hat and give you a fun little nugget. Just that's it. No, in no way, shape, or form were Zack Snyder or Joss Whedon, whichever one shot this particular shot of the exploding wind-up penguins, in no way were the filmmakers trying to suggest and reveal to the audience that this DC cinematic universe goes all the way back to Jack's Joker. And, Danny DeVito is actually the Penguin of the DCEU. And those events that happened in that movie actually are part of our history. No. And I remember I addressed a question like this a couple of days ago where somebody's like, hey, man, Donald Glover's character, his character's in the comic books, and his character is the uncle of Miles Morales. And we hear in Spider-Man Homecoming, Donald Glover say, I've got a nephew that lives in this neighborhood. That means they're introducing Miles Morales. No, it doesn't. It was a wink. It was a tip of the cap. It was it was just the filmmakers giving you a fun little nugget that the hardcore fans would recognize and appreciate. It's just a nice little nugget. It doesn't mean anything. This also reminds me of, oh my gosh, after The Dark Knight Returns, or Dark Knight Rises, I should say, came out and everybody's losing their minds like, Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character is Robin. No, he's not. Okay? Robin's legal name was never Robin. And Christopher Nolan got on MSNBC one day and said that was just a tip of the cap to the fans by throwing in the word Robin. That wasn't Dick Grayson, okay? That wasn't Jason Todd. That wasn't Damian Wayne. That wasn't Tim. That wasn't any of them, okay? It wasn't any of them. All they did was Christopher Nolan just threw that name in there so the audience who knows what's what would kind of get happy and excited. It was just a nugget. And we as comic book fans have got to stop making these leaps. By them suggesting the wind-up penguins, that was just a joke. It was a fun little wink and point of the finger and nod of the cap to the fans who would know what it means, but that's all it is. That's all it is. All right, thanks a lot for the question, Paul. I appreciate that. And we wind up today's show by moving on to the final question today, which comes to us from another one of my Patreon supporters, Corey Hinyup. And Corey Hinyup writes, who cuts trailers for major Hollywood movies? The director or marketing teams? I have heard directors like Peter Jackson comment on being involved in the trailers. So what is the normal means of cutting a trailer? Do the directors have creative control, or is it a marketing team employed to cut the trailer? Yeah, every once in a while, you will hear an example of a director being involved in the making of trailers. That happens, yeah, but it is rare. It's rare. Normally, in Hollywood, there's like 40 major trailer houses. Like these small companies that all they do is cut trailers for major companies, for major studios. That's all they do. For the most part, those are the people that make trailers. And those are the people that make the trailers that we see. For the most part. There are exceptions, absolutely, yeah. But most of the time, it's pretty safe to assume when you're watching a trailer for a film that a trailer company made that trailer for the studio. Now, you may be asking yourself, well, why doesn't the director do it? Well, there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, and this is the not most important reason, but number one is normally when a trailer is being cut, the director's got his attention on directing the movie, whether it's still shooting or whether it's now in the edit bay processing or post-production. The director has his attention on making the movie the best movie it can be. And that's where the director's attention should be. It shouldn't be on making a trailer. It should be on making the best movie you can. So, 9 times out of 10, when the first trailers are being made, the movie is not finished. So the director's there putting their attention there. At least that's where they should be. But the second, and this is the most important reason, directors are filmmakers. They're not marketing geniuses. For the most part. Directing a film and putting together a piece of marketing are two different skill sets. All right? They're two different wells of knowledge. They're two different areas of expertise. Telling a great, compelling story for the audience, putting together a piece of marketing that will get the people in to watch it, they're two different areas of expertise, all right? And most filmmakers are not marketing geniuses. They're not. And that's fine. Most of you are not marketing geniuses. I am not a marketing genius, but we all have our areas of expertise. So what studios do, which is the right thing, they go to the people who their area of expertise is marketing to the audience to get people interested and brought in. That's their area of expertise. It's a totally different thing. It's a totally different, making a trailer and making a movie are two totally different things. And so studios, understanding how important trailers are and how important marketing is, they put their money in getting the best people at making trailers to make trailers and bring them in. That's what happens most of the time. And most of the time, directors have no say. The directors have no control most of the time, not always. Most of the time, directors have absolutely no say in what goes into a trailer. Because the studio doesn't care what a director has to say about it, because they don't know what they're talking about when it comes to marketing. We trust these people, not you. We trust you, the director, to make the best movie possible. That's what we trust you to do. But we're going to let you do your job, but we're going to trust these people whose expertise is making these trailers, and we're going to let them do their job without your interference. So when you're directing your movie, you don't like people to interfere with you, so you don't interfere with them when they're doing their job. It's only fair. So, and we've seen some instances, like I think Steven Soderbergh, who just directed the fantastic film Logan Lucky, which you must see. It's so good. But if I understand the story right, maybe I have this wrong, but if I understand the story right, Steven Soderbergh was kind of had final word, and he got to decide how the marketing of the film was going to be and all that kind of stuff. And that's why the movie bombed. Because Steven Soderbergh is not a marketing executive. He's not a marketing expert. He shouldn't take it upon himself to decide how a movie should be marketed. Because that's why nobody went to go see your movie. It wasn't marketed right. Because you made, Steven Soderbergh, one hell of a movie. Bravo. I love Logan Lucky. Love that film. Seen it twice already. I'm going to see it again. But I'm one of the only people who did, because the marketing wasn't good. The marketing wasn't great. Should have trusted people who marketing is their expertise. And do they always get it right? Absolutely not. Nobody does. Steven Spielberg doesn't get it always right. Marketing companies don't always get it right. But they'll get it right more times than you will. So anyway, that's just my thought on that. Anyway, guys, that'll do it for this installment of the John Campea podcast. Thanks so much for joining me. Hey, listen, if you'd be interested in an audio-only version of the John Campea podcast provided to you on a daily basis, as well as the Star Wars Talk Tuesdays, consider becoming one of my Patreon supporters. You know, I left the corporate world. I do these shows now solo by myself, full-time, making 70 to 100 videos every single month. And I can only do so because of my Patreon supporters who appreciate the content and appreciate getting these videos, and they support me in doing it. And I am so eternally grateful for you guys. If you're interested in getting those audio-only versions of the podcast, but also if you're interested in any of the other little things that we as a Patreon community do, check this link. And also this link is in the description below. Go to my Patreon page, get some more information, see if maybe being a Patreon supporter would be good for you. Also, listen, while you're here, take a second, click the subscribe button, become a subscriber to my YouTube channel, and make sure you're following me on social media, on Facebook and on Twitter, simply at John Campea. That'll do it for me for today, guys. Thanks a lot for joining me, and until the next video, may the Speed Force be with you.